Well, hello again. Yeah, I was sat here typing away post Eddie Howe press conference in the manager's hot seat, and I thought, what a good place to start the video. Now, I haven't got a lot of time because we do get kicked out of here. Eddie doesn't want us seeing the work they're doing outside there on the training pitch, so we've got to be out by 10:15. But actually, in actual fact, they're out there now. I can see them. Wow, he's got Dan Burn through the middle. I think they're going long on Sunday. Yeah, he said it wasn't clicking. Is that the solution? Yeah, no, he's not, by the way, but that would be good, wouldn't it? Maybe in the 90th minute, if they are chasing something, we'll see Dan Burn as a central striker. But on that subject, some of the issues we did talk about today, I asked Eddie, and this was a stat I stumbled upon him midweek, and I couldn't really believe it. You know, Alexander Isak has only scored in one of his last 12 appearances for Newcastle. Eddie answered that. We also spoke a lot about Sandro Tonali as well, given the fallout in the analysis of his performance post Milan. So lots more to come. As I say, just a quick little introduction here. I'll see you very shortly on the streets of Gosforth. Well, hello again. There you go, 2 for the price of 1 in this video. Yeah, now you join me on the corner of Ashburton Road. I'm going to take you through Ashburton Village in Gosforth. Now, there's often some very nice cars parked around this part. Not mine, I must admit, but yeah, the likes of Callum Wilson, Fabian Shaw, Matt Ritchie like to frequent the local shops, and you can see why. Yeah, very good butchers, very good greengrocers, a new bakery just around the corner as well. Fab Bakery, perhaps that's Fabian Shaw thinking about post-career earnings. Who knows? Yeah, judging by the queue and the prices, it wouldn't be a bad investment. But yeah, now here we are. I should have a little walk and talk you through Eddie Howe's press conference this morning. We'll also, a little bit of a blast from the past this week, a certain former manager gave an interview in which he mentioned my name once or twice. I'm going to address some of what he said at the end of the video too, so stay around for that. Yeah, but first of all, the current manager, the good one, Eddie Howe. And this morning he spoke a lot about Sandro Tonali. Now, some of you might be screaming back at the phone, TV, wherever you watch it, laptop, I don't know, multi-platform. But yeah, you might be saying, why are you asking him about this guy again? You know, give him time, let him be. And that was Eddie's overriding message, but at the same time, I think he knew the questions were coming about Sandro Tonali, and he was happy to talk about it, and he had some very good answers that put a little bit of context into his thinking around where he's at and where he sees him down the line. I thought that was important, and there's a link to the Daily Mail story which I've written from that in the description below, and I'll flash the story on screen now as well. I thought it was really interesting. Now, the questions which were put to him were myriad, really. You know, there was a lot of them, and first one up is, you know, have we yet seen the best of Sandro Tonali? He said, well, we will. This was Eddie's answer. You know, we will down the line, but give him time. He needs time. He's a 23-year-old player. And he also, this was really revealing, that he said he's only trained once with his teammates in the last 4 weeks. He said it was no coincidence that on the back of a full pre-season we saw Sandro Tonali's best game against Aston Villa on the opening day. Now, since then, and I think Eddie was almost admitting this by the tone and the context of his answer, and I think just even using your own eyes, you know, we haven't seen the best of Sandro Tonali since then. We crossed the road here. We'll take a little wander down Ashfield Road. Tremendous Chinese takeaway here as well, by the way. I'm getting absolutely no comeback from this. I have to declare that now. Yeah, I won't be getting some free prawn crackers later. Although if you are watching, guys, do feel free. Yeah, he said, you know, Tonali had only trained once with his teammate because of the little thigh problem he had and being away on international duty as well. So he gave that as mitigation as to perhaps why he hasn't looked at his best. And on Tuesday, there's been a lot of fallout from this, and I'll say this again, I was sat there in the San Siro, and it was quite a luxury for me. You know, usually when you're at a game, you're there doing a match report, you're having to watch 22 players in terms of crosses, fouls, shots, merit marks, everything. On Tuesday night, I say it was a luxury. I could just sit there and watch Sandro Tonali and write a 500-word analysis on what he did and what he didn't do. And you know, I stand by it, and the comments on YouTube are really, really good. Twitter less so, but on here, you know, you guys, a majority have come back and said you agreed with my assessment that he was subdued, could have done more, couldn't really work out where he was playing, didn't really seem to be running as hard as he could or should, and maybe that's the fitness issue, we don't know. But yeah, and those of you who disagreed said, okay, I think we should give him time for this reason. But honestly, guys, really, really good debate. It's such a pure platform, YouTube. There seems to be far more brain cells on here than there is on other platforms. But anyway, yeah, it comes back to the reason why we're asking Eddie those questions in the first place, because every journalist to a man walked away from the San Siro. We'll just let this car get past. We don't want to. Just turn around. I'm taking it. I don't know where I'm heading here. Yeah, just down some back streets. But here you go. Real Gosforth for all you expats. Pretty gritty round here, isn't it? Hope you're enjoying the scenery. Yeah, we all left and we went for a beer afterwards, and everyone to a man said the same. The Tonali's return in the isolation of the performance was disappointing. A £52 million midfielder going back to his former home. Of course he was the centre of attention. Now Eddie today said that, and it was the question I asked of him. I said, where do you see him fitting into this midfield? He said, well, he's a wonderful technician. He's a tremendous athlete, and I can see him playing in any one of the three positions across the midfield. Okay, positive answer. He also said as well, and I made this point myself on Tuesday night, I thought this actually was very telling, and I'm totally on board with Eddie with this. He said the reception he got from the Milan fans was informative. That told you that he really did do a job for them, that he gave his all, he was well respected, a good player on the pitch and off the pitch. You don't get a reception like that if you weren't. And I was sat there in the San Siro, I noted this in my copy, I said it on video. We're not debating really, is Sandro Tonali a good player or not a good player? He clearly is. It's just, where does he fit into this Newcastle team? And I use that word in the isolation of now, with Newcastle not clicking, and they're not. Eddie said today, he used the phrase, they're not clicking going forward. Sandro Tonali is a big part of that, of course he is. Where's Tonali's place right now? And others. It's not just about him, but because he is the new signing, because he went back to Milan this week, that's why the focus is on him. We're not being negative, some of the accusations. Stop being negative. Not negative, it's just realistic. I'm talking journalist. I'm there to talk about, the burning issues. Goodness, I sound like a journalist there. I'm there to talk about the talking points, and that is one. So yeah, I agreed with Eddie in terms of, I'm not, and others aren't questioning him. We're not judging Sandro Tonali. We're not turning around and saying that was a bad signing. Not at all. That'd be absolute nonsense. But we are allowed to give an opinion in the short term. And my opinion at the moment is that I think he's struggling for whatever reason. Maybe it's the fitness. Maybe it's adapting. Maybe it's finding his place in the team. But let's explore the ideas as to why. Because he ultimately, while at the moment he could be a little bit of a problem for Newcastle, going forward he could no doubt be the solution, and that is what we're striving to find. That's why we're asking Eddie these questions. On the flip side of that, there's the argument which exists, is he really what Newcastle needed this summer? Nothing to do with Sandro Tonali, but is he the type of midfielder they needed? One of my colleagues asked that question, and I think Eddie must have known it was coming, because he gave it. I don't think he liked the question, I must admit, and he gave a fairly short answer and just said, no, he doesn't agree. They didn't need a number 6. He said he's got 3 players who can play that position now. He didn't need a 4th. Well, the 3, I presume he means, are Bruno, Tonali and Sean Longstaff. Now, what would my opinion on that be, my analysis of that? I'd like to see Tonali in there. I do. I think I wrote this in the week, didn't I? My Daily Mail piece, put him in there in the middle. He's clearly a good ball player. For me, he's not seeing enough of the ball at the moment. I use that phrase again, sorry for repeating myself, but it's a good one. He's decorating games, not dominating them, and Newcastle needed someone to come in the midfield in terms of ball retention, ball use. They needed someone to come in and be that man to free Bruno to go and impact further up the pitch, because for me, Bruno Guimaraes, I don't think he is a number 6. I know he played that position in Lyon, totally different league. I think in the Premier League, he's not. I think Newcastle are being exposed in that area behind Bruno again on Tuesday night. Ruben Loftus-Cheek running in there. Newcastle conceded 26 shots on Tuesday. Now, what does that tell you? Something's going wrong in terms of the protection of the goal. That the opposition teams are getting through far too easily. It's been a theme all season, and because of that, that's why the microscope is on Bruno, Tonali and others in the midfield. Another question he was asked, and it's a good question, can Bruno and Tonali play together? Now, Eddie did say he understood the question. He said what is key to the future success of Newcastle is that he makes it work and those players make it work. That is why we've got this. That's why we've got this analysis, because at the moment it's not. And I've said that many times. And for Newcastle to improve going forward, he's got to find a solution to that, be it in terms of tweaks of position, formation. I don't know, there's been suggestion this week, Steve McLaren, there's been suggestion this week, try saying that they should go to a 4-2-3-1 and, put Longstaff and Bruno, or Bruno and Tonali, Bruno and Tonali together is the two. I don't know. There's a few different things to explore. Thankfully, that's not my job. That's Eddie's. I'm just here to give my opinion on what does play out. Now, I mentioned this at the start, didn't I, when I was sat in Eddie's seat. Alexander Isak. I wrote a piece this week for the Mail. I'd been asked just to identify 3 areas for improvement going forward. And I thought, well, Isak, I'll have a look at Alexander Isak. I couldn't believe he's only scored in one of his last 12 appearances for Newcastle. Now, that almost in a way is a compliment, because I don't look at Isak and think he's necessarily a problem or he's playing poorly. But nonetheless, I said to Eddie, why is that? And he said stats can be misleading. He was happy with Alexander Isak's contribution to the team. And the hint was that it was more about what was behind and around Isak as opposed to anything with him individually. He did reveal actually that Isak has been struggling a little bit with a knee injury, which we didn't know. So maybe that would explain at times why, for me, if I was being critical, analytical, whatever, he does sort of drop out of games more than he used to, certainly towards the back end of last season when he was fit and firing. But the good thing with Newcastle is they've got Callum Wilson to come in, and I would expect Wilson to start down at Sheffield United on Sunday. I just think Wilson was brilliant last week against Brentford. When Newcastle are struggling a little bit in terms of that inspiration, that confidence in the final third, if you've got someone like Wilson, that character, that force of personality, put him in there. Always liked him. I would start him at Sheffield United. But Isak, nonetheless, that's one to keep an eye on. The possibility of him going out to play on the left. Maybe he isn't a central striker. That stat would suggest not, because he's played all of those 12 games in that position. So we'll see. Nonetheless, Alexander Isak is top. He's elite. He's a Champions League footballer. But Newcastle have to find a solution to that statistic going forwards. Now, what else do we talk about? Yeah, a little bit of fitness news. Joe Linton might be back before the international break. Good news, because one of the points I made in the video was that they're missing the 2 Joes badly. Joe Willock, Joe Linton. Just the amount of times last year Joe Linton would win a ball and Joe Willock would seize on it and carry it forward. At the minute, Newcastle haven't got a ball carrier really in midfield, someone to break those lines. Bruno tries to beat a man, but when he beats a man, which he does, it's invariably with the purpose of winning a free kick. The amount of times he bustles his body in there and goes down. So I just think they're missing Joe Willock's purposeful running. He's direct with his running, and they're missing Joe Linton at his best, breaking things up and getting about the opposition. There was some criticism for Joe Linton in the weeks before he was officially classed as injured, but maybe that's because he was carrying something, because admittedly he wasn't himself, and I'm someone who was massively a lot of time and a lot of praise for him. So yeah, Joe Linton hopefully back before the international break, Eddie said, but Joe Willock definitely won't be. He's got an Achilles problem, will be out until at least sort of mid to late October. Other than that, no other fitness concerns going down to Sheffield United. Now, of the game down at Sheffield, now if this was last season, you go there and you say Newcastle win, they're better than Sheffield United. You know that double header last year, remember, towards the end of the season, West Ham away, Brentford away, they'll go there and they'll beat both of them. They're better than both of them. They won, okay, the Brentford one, they made a little bit hard. It wasn't as straightforward as the West Ham game, but nonetheless they went there and come back with 6 points. I'll be down at Sheffield United on Sunday, and I'm not convinced of a Newcastle victory. How can you be the way they're playing at the moment? And they're not playing terribly badly, of course they're not. This could be a very good week. They've had 2 games this week and they've kept 2 clean sheets. One of them was a victory at Brentford, the other one was a brilliant point in the San Siro. But they're not clicking, you can't ignore that, and because of that, the confidence around them just doesn't really exist the way it once did at the moment. That's the point I'm making. I think you probably understand that. And I've covered a lot of football down at Sheffield United. When they've got the ground which is full, it's a really, really good place. It's an intimidating place for the opposition to get behind their own team. So I don't think this one will be as straightforward as perhaps we once would have thought. Anyway, so that brings us on to what I flagged up at the start with regards to the former manager who spoke about me on a podcast this week, among other things. The other stuff you analyse for yourself. I mean, I've got my own opinion on it, but with regards to what he said about me, do you know what? He said things in the past and I've just let it go, risen above it, because I'm not particularly bothered anymore. But when there's factual inaccuracies, I feel the need to address it. So yeah, Steve Bruce and factual inaccuracies. Now there's something new. But he said the 2 things he accused me of was, one, he said that in his first, I think, did he use the word third game? It was his first, I can't remember. It was his first game, in fact, against Arsenal. He said that I'd accused him and written that he'd sent on a player to play anywhere, and he said as if I would do that. Well, I didn't say that. Jethro Williams was a new signing. He was brought as a left back in Steve Bruce against Arsenal, first game of the season, put him on centre midfield. Factually correct. I recorded that in my copy. He then realised his error and was waving on the touchline to say to Jethro Williams, go to left back. Again, factually correct. Jethro Williams goes to left back, then within a couple of minutes, I think it is, whenever it is, Arsenal down the right side, they get in, they score the only goal of the game, they win 1-0. I recorded all of the facts from that and then put my opinion on it and said that such fuzzy thinking I don't know what the phrase was, but such confusion had contributed to Arsenal's goal. Steve didn't like that. I remember even at the time he'd misinterpreted what I'd written and what I'd said. So yeah, for the record, never said he put a player on to play anywhere. I said he put a player on in the wrong position, corrected it, but by the time he corrected it, there was confusion. Arsenal scored. I'm happy with the reporting of that, no problem. Next one, he said that the following week they went down to Norwich and got beat badly, true, and that I'd written that he couldn't take a warm-up. Just didn't happen. Paul Dummett said in an interview afterwards that he could tell us something wasn't right in the warm-up. Now, I'm a journalist, and if I'm seeing a player say that there wasn't something right in the warm-up of a manager's second game in charge, I'm going to record that. Now, I recorded it. I wrote the story. Then on the back of that, I gave a little bit of analysis as to why that would be a worry for me. Now, Steve Bruce actually, at no point was it suggested Steve Bruce was part of the warm-up. His words this week, I said he couldn't take a warm-up. I didn't. Steve Bruce wasn't there. It was his coaches. I just said it was worrying that after week 2, week 1, a couple of weeks in, that a player felt the need to say the warm-up didn't feel right. Now, Paul Dummett might come back and say he never actually meant that. Okay, that's not for me to worry about. The fact was that he said it, I recorded it, and I thought it was an indicator of things, going forward, as it was. I mean, I think I'd like to think I was proven right on this one. My early instinct of Stephen, he kept on saying, I think he said during the interview I was a big problem for him and my followers were a big problem for him. Well, I don't think I was a problem for Steve Bruce. I think Steve Bruce's biggest problem was himself. It's all very well throwing stones in my direction, but it's hard with, I'm not going to go on for too much longer, like I say, but yeah, it's hard criticising Steve Bruce because he has got a lot of friends in very high places in football, including Simon Jordan, who we did the podcast with this week. And if I saw something different, and I'd like to think I was brave enough to say that and shine a light on it, and because of that you do get a fair bit of blowback. It's not the easiest thing to do, but ultimately my information, my opinion, everything else was coming from a really strong place to give me the confidence and what I felt was the authority to do that. And over time, yeah, I'd like to think that those instincts in that reporting was proven to be accurate and proven to be fair. So there you go. I just thought I would answer a couple of things which were said this week, which if they hadn't been factually inaccurate, I would have just left them. But I heard them being talked about again on TalkSport earlier as if to say, treating them as fact apparently. So, which, yeah, I wasn't really prepared to let that go as much as I have done some other stuff in the past. But anyway, there you go. That is part of the past as well, thankfully. Now, again, click on the links below. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Loads more Daily Mail coverage to come. A really, really busy period we're going into across all Daily Mail platforms. So much more. We did the Twitter Spaces event this week when I was sat having a beer in an airport in Milan, which, come on into my world. It's good fun. Really enjoyed that. Got some good listeners through the Mail Twitter page there. So keep watching, keep liking, keep subscribing, all the rest of it. I'll be down at Sheffield United on Sunday, bring you another of these videos, match report from there, quotes, analysis. Whatever happens, there'll be loads of fallout again. That's the way it is at Newcastle United right now. It's exciting, it's fun, it's a non-stop, you learn from Milan, Eddie's press conference, it's great at the moment. Loads to talk about, that's what we want. Okay guys, thanks for watching, see you soon, bye-bye.